And we're called to order. Good morning.
Good morning.
Not in here. That's where.
Let me get this here. I gotta click on that. I gotta close out that. And I gotta bring up this. Now. Okay, am I going now? Okay. All right, welcome to TMG meeting. It should be 322. Why am I showing up? Doesn't matter. Ignore it. I've got the old version of the agenda up. Anyway, it's February, not January. It's 2023. It's February, and this is meeting number 322 of TMG Dayton. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I thank you all. Yes, ma'am?
You got the right presentation? Or you just finger football?
The agenda doesn't change from month to month. So we have the welcome.
Well,
We
except
do
for
the
the
welcome first.
Okay.
And I just want everyone to welcome Aaron Dingus, who's our new member. He was here last month, and he saw what we were about, and brave man that he was, he came back. Okay, so with that said, does anybody have any news they want to share about what's been going on the last month in the world of Apple devices and software and information technology?
Will they do it now?
No, hold off on that.
Yeah.
We'll do that when we do help desk. Anybody have any? So nothing happened in the world regarding technology at all. Thank you, Aaron.
I'll give a couple. Obviously, ChatGPT and Bing was a very big deal, and I'm curious how it's going to affect Apple in the end. I actually happen to work with chatbots at my work. I program a customer service chatbot as part of my job function, and it obviously impacted a lot of people, and so I'm real curious how Apple's going to respond to that, because we all know how great Siri is, but tis. And another thing that happened is the M2 line of products has been released since our last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I briefly had an M2 Max MacBook, a Pro, but I returned it to get a Mini because I felt like I wasn't using the portability of it, and I was paying an extra $1,000 for something I wasn't using.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an M2 Mini Pro ordered in to replace it. But I can, since I used it, I act like a big trial, and I can tell you that it is very performant. And I had the 30 GPU core model, and it benchmarked amazing on graphics.
And
Roughly,
what did you do with the storage? Did you go with the?
I went with 1 terabyte
Okay.
in order to get past the limitations of having a non-parallel chip, because the very entry-level chips on all the MacBooks now, because they're only one module, they don't benefit from the natural parallelism of having 2 of them side by side.
Correct.
And so that is, it benchmarked into the 5s, which is what you'd want from a PCIe 4 SSD, so performant. And I had the 30 core, I didn't go for the 38, and the 30 core GPU was very performant. I did some tests in World of Warcraft, and it roughly, if this means anything to anybody, was roughly like a 3060 on a PC, which is really amazing for a laptop that is that
Yep.
quiet. It did, I have had used some M1s at work, and I did feel, and other people reported this, that it does, the fan's a little louder and it works a little harder, but the trade-off is more performance. So that's my little impromptu mini review.
Do you work with Blu-ray drives at all?
The only Blu-ray drives, I don't do anything for work with them.
Okay. Because the one thing that I've heard and it's verified with Ventura is that it breaks a lot of the USB Panasonic Blu-ray optical drives, but they're working on it.
I will have one USB thing that's just a real fun anecdote is
Sure.
I had an iMac G3 DVSE in 1999 when it came out, or actually not 2000, but roughly there. And I had a zip disk that matched a zip drive, 100 megabyte, and I have kept it all this time. And I plugged it. I got a power cord for it because I didn't have one. I plugged it into an M2 MacBook Pro. It is 23 years old,
Yeah.
and it brought up my files.
That is amazing.
Do you need any zip cartridges?
I actually could use a couple because I have a working zip
Put it
drive.
on the list.
I'll put it on the list.
Okay. Yes.
It's as loud as all get out, but it works.
Get some stuff out of the basement. Yes, Mr. Cartwright.
So Apple, then they also released the new HomePod, which is the big size HomePod,
That is
which is
correct.
supposed to sound just like the old one. I haven't got one to try, but it's I have a pair of the old ones that I really like, so I'm glad to see they did that.
And they released some applesauce too
Yeah,
for the,
there was some updates, there was an update for the HomePod 13.2.1 to tvOS.
and there was something else.
I don't know, but I hope they release an update for Ventura real soon, because there's some bugs in there that are killing
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And I need to see them release that. They're not major, but they're things that are causing me a problem.
Okay.
What if they released something else too, Bob? I forget what it
Okay,
was.
think about it while I
Keep
log
going,
in.
I gotta remember what it was.
So, this whole thing about artificial intelligence, okay? ChatGPT was just a news story in regard to school teachers saying, oh my God, the children are using this artificial intelligence program to write their essays. How will we know
College students.
what they wrote and what the artificial intelligence wrote? And then all of a sudden, you know, some of the big tech firms have been under a little bit of pressure in terms of the stock market. Well, Microsoft invested a whole bunch of money into ChatGPT. Okay. Keep in mind, the founder of ChatGPT was the person in charge of AI research at Google. He felt they were underfunding his efforts, so he left, and he did this all on his own with venture money. So Microsoft stock suddenly is considered to be the greatest new thing. Google, of course, goes, wait a minute, they're saying that our search engine will be yesterday's stale bread. We have to do something. So they released and did a big demo of their artificial intelligence, except when they asked it questions, it gave some wrong answers. Okay. And it was on the scale of back when Bill Gates was demonstrating plug-and-play USB devices the first time. And he's up on the stage and he says, you just take the plug from the scanner and plug it in and it works. And of course, he went blue screen on his PC. So just a note, if you decide to run a major company and you're doing a propaganda war against your main competitor, when you do that rollout demo, make sure you got it bulletproof. Okay, don't be Elon Musk with the, you know, hitting the car window with the big bowling ball and it cracks. Don't do that. Don't be Bill Gates plugging it in and it goes blue screen. And whatever you do, don't have your artificial intelligence show its ignorance. So with that said, I'm going to say, unless somebody else has some news, anything local that you want to talk about? You know, Spectrum's rolling out, Spectrum, the cable company, is rolling out new cable boxes to people. So just be aware that that's something. If you're a Spectrum subscriber, I almost said survivor. I'm bad.
What's new about it?
It's a bigger metal box from Cisco replacing a smaller plastic box from Cisco. You may. Anyway.
Yeah, how much extra are they gonna charge for
Yeah,
that?
but just
The
be
old
aware
units
that,
get too
that
reliable for
they
you.
tell people that, oh, you can set it up yourself. Well, yeah, but don't necessarily follow the directions they give you. They are not all that they could be. So with that said,
Hey,
I'm
Bill,
gonna-
Bill,
Yep.
Spectrum replaced my modem for free, even though. I-
no, this is
But
our
I'm
cable
just saying-
TV.
Right, but the modem that
Yeah.
that I had, they replaced, the new modems have a lot more headroom as far as broadband headroom.
Yeah,
So, you know, whenever they decide they're gonna up their speed,
Yeah.
my system can now,
yeah, so anyway, I'm talking about the cable
Right,
boxes.
right, I know.
Yeah, and yeah, it's got an updated, am I allowed to talk about embedded Linux? Probably not. Anyway, but it's got this other operating system that's an improvement over the one that they had before. And I noticed the cable cards are back. These things all have cable cards in them. So this is your TV box.
No, modem.
No, I'm not talking about
Yeah,
the
but
gateway.
you're talking about, yeah, I know, we're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, they did mine for free,
Oh, yeah.
after, you know, they came in, upgraded my line, so.
And if you end up having to replace your TV box and it doesn't work, they are very prompt at coming out and getting it set up properly. So I just went through this with a couple people. They had me come out to try and vet it. Cable TV is not my forte, I'll just say that. Okay, so with that said, do we have any other news? Going once, going twice? Okay, then we're going to turn the meeting over briefly to our Internet of Things aficionado. You don't want me to call you an expert, right? Aficionado. And we're going to switch source, go down, hit enter, go down, hit enter. Okay.
So, speaking of HomePods, as Rick mentioned, Apple released a version 2, a Gen 2 of the HomePods, the big HomePods, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, as you look at the photo of them, they're not much different from the first gen, and it's about 99.9% the same. There's some subtle exterior differences, but most of the differences are internal. It comes in two colors, midnight and white. The midnight color does not match the space gray color of the first gen. So, you know, there's that difference there.
It's mostly black.
It's black, but it's not exactly the same. And as you can see, the price is fairly hefty at $299. And so I'll talk about that as well, as far as, but on the interior, it's not reading very well. On the interior, the HomePods have a much larger.
You can see the screen.
It's too dark, so be patient. But when we talk about the differences between the three types, so you see here, the first gen is on the left, the second gen is on the right, and the HomePod Mini is in between them. So what's the difference between all of the three versions? Well, as you can see, the display on the top of version 1 is a lot smaller than the display on version 2, and you can see the volume adjustments a lot easier on the newer version, just like you can on the Mini. Well, the Mini also has a much smaller driver, speaker driver. So, you know, if you're just looking to have a smart speaker in your house to interface with Siri or to control your HomeKit devices, you don't need this new HomePod. You can do that with the $99 Mini, and you know you can get 3 Minis for the price of a HomePod. So I can't necessarily, if that's all you're wanting it to do, I can't recommend that you get this new HomePod. But the real difference between the larger HomePods, whether it's the first gen or second gen, and the Mac Mini or the HomePod Mini, is the sound quality that you get from the speaker. So if you're playing a lot of music through these, or you're wanting to stream music or play from your iTunes library, there is a big difference in sound quality. Now, one of the differences between the first gen and the second gen is that they've reduced the number of speakers inside. The first gen had 7 tweeters, the second gen has 5, and you may not think, well, that's not too bad, but it does sound a little bit different. They've re-engineered some of the sound processing to kind of mimic the first gen, but it's, you know, I've heard the differences are very slight, so you probably wouldn't notice it right off, but there is a little downgrade to the sound quality, supposedly. But you know, here's a chart that compares all the features, and as you can see, between the Mini and the regular larger HomePods, the only things that you really don't get with the Mini are this spatial audio processing, as well as the fact that it's room sensing. Now, what's room sensing? Well, when you place a HomePod in a location, it has an internal movement sensor, so it knows that it's being moved. And when it starts up, it sends out a signal, and it kind of senses all the enclosures, you know, the walls, or whether you've got it on a bookshelf. It senses everything around it, adjusts the processing inside, and basically adjusts the pattern of the music that's coming out of it. It's got speakers all the way around it, but it will create a sound field with digital signal processing. And what you really don't get from a single speaker, you can really, when you pair them together, whether it's a first gen or second gen, that's where they really start to shine. And the HomePods, the larger HomePods, are also capable of working with Dolby Atmos. So if you have them hooked up to your Apple TV 4K, you can get theater quality sound, and you get sort of a three-dimensional sound image of sound coming from beside you or above or below, just from two speakers. So there's a big jump in sound quality, like I said, between the HomePod Mini and the regular HomePod. But the other thing with the Generation 2 is that it now has a built-in thread network, so it also acts as a router for your HomeKit devices. And both of the versions also have an intercom feature, so you can, if you've got HomePods around the house, you can intercom between them. You don't have to shout to somebody in the other room. That's kind of nice. And then they're offering a lot of ways to through apps to stream your music. One of the things they still don't support is Spotify, but maybe someday they'll get that working. So, any questions? That's all I really wanted to. Yeah.
One thing to remember, this probably won't apply anybody here, but if you want to pair, they have to be the like devices. So you can pair a new HomePod with a new HomePod, but you can't pair a new HomePod with a Mini or a new HomePod with the version of the old HomePod. It has to be like devices to pair.
Right. So you have to have the same generation.
To pair. But
Yeah.
pairing makes a big difference. We have a pair in our living room, and it really makes it. It's amazing how they sound. That's the old HomePod. So, and I love Atmos too. So it's incredible.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And the lock.
Oh, yeah. I also wanted to point out, one of the freebies, things over on the freebies table is this first gen August smart lock. It's not Wi-Fi compatible, but it works, and it's free. So if anybody has any future need for it, it's free, and I'll show you how to install it. So.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. iCloud Drive got me. It reverted to the old version of it. Okay, so with that said, bring it back up. Okay, did HomeKit freebies wanted for sale? So over here, there's the Internet of Things lock. If somebody wants to play with it, it's here. If you decide that you don't want to play with it, or let's say you played with it, and you want to bring it back, let somebody else play with it, that's a good thing to do. And then the other thing we have is a charger for Apple Watches that's on the freebie. The source of the freebie items are the membership. People have stuff, they don't need it anymore, or they go, oh, I don't need it anymore. They bring it in, we share it with the members. Okay, anybody else have any items for sale?
Well, yeah, I've still got the 2011 Mac Mini. If you're interested, it's $75.
Okay, anything else?
No.
So you sold the boombox at home and you, and the TV mounts? And-
No, I still have the TV mount, yeah.
Okay, okay. So anyway, refresh with Mark with an email, so when he sends the meeting notice out, he knows what you have, so we
So
can
that's
try
gonna
and
be
get
for
it sold. Okay, so that's it for
6
freebies,
digit.
wanted for sale to somebody else out here. Is anybody
No,
looking
thanks.
for a piece of equipment? No, okay. And now we're gonna go to, yes,
Text message?
I have a friend that, UD student, from West Africa, and he's looking for his
It's
PC.
email.
A wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse
That's
for a
it.
PC. If you
I got it.
have anything like that, you'd like to donate, let me know, and I'll be happy to get that for you.
okay, so that's a wireless mouse keyboard for a PC.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say it. So we did good. Okay, and that's Bill Mears.
Okay,
So if you
Probably
know anything, let Bill
there we
know.
go.
Okay, with that said,
Recording in progress.
Connecting to audio.
we're gonna go to,
Hey, Rick. Maybe he's gonna
It's working now.
get the message.
I'll mute
I
everybody.
think so.
can we mute people?
Hello?
It's working now. Hang on.
Okay.
I'm muting everybody. Okay, finally. I don't know, it just crashed.
As a side note, I would remind you that the head of Zoom just said he was laying off 1/5 of his workforce, and maybe it was more than that. And Microsoft is gonna lay off people, and Google's gonna lay off people, and who am I forgetting? Amazon's gonna lay off people. The only company that doesn't seem to be laying off people is Apple.
They did let a few people go.
Yeah.
Did they let some people
I
go?
know a couple people, I personally know somebody got let go.
Okay. And so they're right sizing too, but they're not doing the public relations announcement about it.
I'd be curious to know if those are work from home people that are
It wasn't. This person was in the office.
versus people in the office.
It was in the office. This person I know worked in the office.
All three of the position, okay, headhunter sends out emails to me. And it was about 4 different positions, and they all were remote work situations. And the thing that amazed me was, it was for chief technology officer. So you're going to be the C-suite of this organization, and you're going to be remoting in. And I don't know, I just keep thinking, it'd be like chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chief technology officer, you know, and I'm thinking, I don't think remoting in is gonna work. No, okay. So with that put to the side, help desk, we're gonna do help desk, and we're gonna start first off with a tip from George Reinhardt.
I found something that was very helpful. Had a bunch of Adobe Acrobat files, and I wanted to search them for, it was a genealogy project. So how do you search hundreds of PDF files automatically or automated? So go to Adobe Acrobat, go over to the edit menu, down to advanced search. If you click on advanced search, you'll open up a dialog box or a pane. There will be a box in there for you to put what you want to search for, the text that you want to search for. And there'll be several buttons you can try and navigate to where the files are. So in our case, we had a DVD full of PDF files. So you put the DVD in the computer, navigate to the DVD, select that, and then tell it to search. And it opens up a pane with results, and it's the file that it found it in, what it is, you know, and sort of the context of what it is. It works really nice. Of course, you know, if you're searching a whole DVD full of data, it takes a little while. You have to be patient. But it's a very nice feature, and for especially people like doing genealogy, with searching a newspaper,
Yeah,
a little newspaper in Michigan,
yeah.
since, I don't know, I think they digitized it starting in about 1931, and it's about a 6-page newspaper, and all up, I think, almost to the present.
Mhm.
So we have all these files, and we wanted to search them. Actually, my daughter-in-law wanted to search them for her family and what have you. Works nice. It's nice, free.
And it's part of the app.
So that, is that searching file names or text?
No, it's
Well,
searching.
no. You search
Content.
whatever text. Say maybe your family's name or something for articles about your family. So no, it's a text that you want to find. In the results, it lists the file first, so you can find it. Okay. So it lists the file name and then something about what it found.
So it searches not just the whatever folder you're in, but subfolders and everything else as well. So
You have to navigate to the folder and tell it, search this directory is the word they use.
Or in your case, it was a DVD that you had.
So
Yeah, you would navigate to the DVD, and that's how far you would navigate to the DVD. Then you'd say, search this DVD for
So it's searching
say
subfolders.
Yeah.
some text.
So,
Works real nice.
I always like to push, thank you. I always like to push vocabulary in terms. So there's this term metadata. So when you say this search engine works with metadata, that means it's not just looking at the file name, it's looking at the contents of the file. So for example, your photos that you take with your Apple iPhone or that you've taken with other digital cameras, they have additional metadata in the file other than just the picture. iPhones will have the altitude, the latitude and longitude of the location where the file was taken. It'll, in the case of digital cameras, it'll actually have the make and model of the digital camera. I'm not a photographer, f-stop, what's the other one?
Exposure.
Yeah, exposure that the photo was taken. That's metadata. Same thing with the search engine that's built into your Macintosh computers called Spotlight. It'll do metadata search. It'll look file name, it'll also look for contents within. So be aware that with this artificial intelligence stuff coming down the line, which by the way, it's been coming down the line since about 1960, the search engine people are going to have to really up their game. So if you don't know how to use search engines properly, now's the time to get with it. And it can really make your life a lot easier. Yes?
Speaking of metadata, if we're on to the next topic, I used Picard to go through all of my music files and updated all of them that it could find, including album art. But iTunes is still having issues bringing in the right album art. So if I scrub the data, where's iTunes getting all of the album art from, if not from the metadata?
Typically, it's the iTunes store interfering with it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm no longer using Apple Music or iTunes. I'm using an open source program that runs on the Mac, Windows, and Linux called Strawberry. And it doesn't try and add stuff unless you ask it to. It has a search component that's linked with the MusicBrainz database. And I believe there's one other open source music database that's out there.
Is there an app for that on the Apple TV?
No.
No.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Ratchford.
I mentioned to you on that Quicken thing that I've lost all the data on it starting in 2007.
Well, did you lose the data, or does the program just crash when you try and bring it up?
Well, I've lost my keys to the car because I forgot where I left them. In this case, I want to search for the data that's missing. And the other thing is, unless somebody is super aware of what's going on with Quicken, I had a situation on the 9th of January. It said, you got an update. Okay, well, let it update. Okay, it's time to open Quicken, and instantly, in less than an eye blink, it says, quit unexpectedly. And it had pages and pages of stuff to send it to. I got another call coming in on Tuesday.
Okay.
I have spent, if I had $10 for every hour I spent on that, I could really take everybody out to dinner.
Okay, so 3 comments. The first one being snarky. Think of it as a senior enrichment activity. Because when we were locked down with COVID, talking to support actually gave you some outside contact. Second thing, chances are that update somehow was corrupted, and it corrupted your application. It did not finish the thing. Last thought, it's been a while since I used Quicken, but if I remember correctly, when Quicken moved to the internet model, they started keeping a copy of your data in a folder on your local machine and in their Intuit website. Or am I thinking of Quicken for Business?
I think you're Quicken for Business because as many times as I've talked to people in Guatemala
Yeah.
and could understand what they were saying, they've never mentioned anything
Okay,
like
but you
that.
should have a backup folder that has your Quicken files on your local
You
machine.
can't close Quicken without a backup. It either automatically backups in one place and you can have another
Yeah.
place. Can't find it. So that's why I want you to come over to the house someday and straighten it out.
Okay. I would remind you that all of the files that we use on our Macintosh have a prefix and a suffix part of it. The prefix is what we normally think of as the file name. The suffix is the application identifier. For example, if I have something that's, memo.doc, that says it belongs to Microsoft Word. In the same way, Quicken files have their own suffix. And if you do a search for the suffix, show me files with this suffix, this is doing a spotlight search on your machine, it should show you where those things are stored. And one of them will be in a folder that's labeled backup, and I don't remember exactly what Quicken calls the backup folder. It's probably something simple like Quicken Backup.
Answer your phone and you walk me through.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay. Anybody else? Help desk. Yes, Dan Duncan.
I'm having a phone problem, and I get a lot of more messages than I'd really like, I guess. But occasionally I go up to the filters and check, all filters, and there'll be 2 or 3 messages sort of together, and then they show up, or it says they're there, but there's a little arrow that I push at the upper left corner of that thing. I keep pushing and hitting and get away from it and do everything I can. It won't move. It just doesn't bring up those messages.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned it off, but tried it again and tried it. And sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't.
Okay, just to make sure that I'm understanding, we're talking about text messages.
Text messages.
That are either through iMessage or they're an SMS text message from an Android phone or, some other.
I think most of them are text messages.
Let me just look at my phone for a second. Okay, so I usually start on the page that has got like messages up at the top, and it'll have all messages, known senders, unread messages, and recently deleted. So typically, I don't try and slide, I just tap, and it'll bring me the next thing. If it's like I'm tapping on known senders, now I'm tapping on unknown senders, now I'm tapping on unread messages. So what I'm wondering is, do you use a hand lotion?
No,
No, okay. So,
not usually.
and you don't have a problem with where your skin is really dry or really oily, so nothing like that?
Well, it's fairly dry. I
Okay.
can't use identification fingerprint.
Okay. Because sometimes it's the phone doesn't recognize that you've got a finger on that particular thing. But it's not one where where it says like unknown senders and there's an arrow. It's not something that you should be sliding. It's something that you just
Yeah,
tap on.
it's a tap on,
Yeah. Yes, Dan?
It sounds to me like maybe the text message has an attachment, and it's trying to download it, that attachment?
Well,
Is that
could
possible?
be. That could be. And the Apple will be
And
really,
so
really,
it's just grinding away, and that's
Yeah.
why it's not doing anything.
yeah, that's a possibility. Or it could be something where Apple is blocking the attachment from coming in.
You have a
Do
screen
you know what
protector
these
on it?
messages, go ahead, Bill.
You have a screen protector on it?
Yeah,
Sometimes when I tap my phone, it doesn't come up. You have to tap it again because of the screen protector. They're not-
well, I've sort of wondered about that, and I've done it a number of times, and
Okay.
it usually ultimately comes up, but it's,
Do you clean the front of your phone with your screen protector occasionally with a buffer rag?
of course not.
Because that's the other thing I found, that if I can tell it's time to pull out my microfiber cloth to buff it when it's not responding to what I'm doing.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we don't necessarily give a definitive solution to people, but sometimes we're entertaining while we do it. Okay, with that said, yes,
This
Rod.
is- yes, in answer to your question of you can't get your fingerprint to work, when my wife and I went for global entry to get back as we traveled, long story short was, my wife had problems at Miami Valley Hospital with their finger identification, so much so that they gave her a password and wiped out her finger ID. The folks at Global Entry said if you have a problem, because when you come back in and you use that, you have to put your whole handprint, fingerprint, all 5 of them down as a biometric to let yourself back into the country.
Yeah.
He said, take your hand and rub it on the back of your neck. If you remember as a little kid, your shirt used to get nice and dirty at the back of your neck. That's where there's some extra oil.
okay,
And so if you just sort of rub it on the back of your neck a little bit and then try the fingerprint, chances are it'll work.
okay. And with that, dirty necks, we're gonna say we're done with help desk. Yeah. Okay, one last thought.
I was going to ask about the broken, I've got some cracks in my screen protector with working, and Dan helped me with that, just said it probably
Okay.
would be a help. But the other thing I would say,
Yes.
as an oboist,
Yes.
we sometimes have the problem, we need to slide keys.
Mhm.
The side of your nose is just as good as the back of your neck.
Yeah.
It's a very, very well lubricated area. Left finger side of your nose, you bump your chin.
That works too.
I know.
Here's work, okay, okay,
I
you
do have-
get to finish up, Ross.
Okay, I do have a question. When we're in Chrome looking at emails and I'm trying to go through them to delete them,
Yeah,
and as I roll down and I try to click, from one side it says trash, and the other side it says mark as unread or mark as read, I'm not sure which.
yeah,
But if you don't get that message lined up perfectly, you can't do anything with your messages. It won't, your mouse won't work. Is that just mouse workability, or is that a problem?
Yeah, it's the hand-eye mouse coordination, getting it. What I usually do is I'll have the list of mail there, so each line is an email message. I'll click on it, and then I'll hit my delete key on a Mac. This is on a Mac.
Right.
And that will send it off to the trash or the archive, depending on how you have your Google Gmail settings.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Phyllis has a question.
Okay, Phyllis.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I had a question about appraisals. Has anybody ever tried the Google Lens application for getting appraisals? Okay,
I think that's a big no.
okay, thank you.
What do you mean by appraisal?
An app to appraise things, like she's trying to appraise a document, there's something she's got that she wants to get a value. She wants a tool that will appraise,
Yeah.
appraise things.
So you've taken a picture of a silver spoon, okay,
Right.
from a set of silverware. And then using this app from Google, you drag that picture into the app, and then it goes out and searches for that thing to come up with an appraised value. I'm just very skeptical of that kind of stuff, especially when you're talking about the distinction between a 1930, okay, trivia, just ignore it, a 1939 Gorman silver dining fork, okay? It has a different valuation than a 1941 silver fork from the same company. And it's all because the government needed the silver for the war effort. So the one is very rare, the one is less rare. A photo isn't going to do that. Okay. But if you're doing Hummel figurines, it'll work pretty well. Anybody else that does, do we have any collectors here that do this kind of stuff that might have a suggestion for Phyllis? And it's a big zero, Phyllis. Okay, so
Thank you.
I'm going to say, do we have anybody else in Zoom land that got a question? The house guy, going once, going twice, I'm okay?
Nobody's asking.
So then we're going to go to the raffle. What we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through the interface for the new, improved, redesigned Apple iCloud.com website. You may remember it was either last month or the month before. I was gobsmacked when Rick Cartwright said, well, Bill, you can go to iCloud.com with a web browser from your iPhone or your iPad. And I said, no way. Well, I was wrong, Rick was right. So what do I do after the meeting? I go, hey, I'm going to educate myself about this. So I went to the iCloud.com website. And the first thing I learned was it really is designed for you to look at on an iPad or an iPhone, not on a Mac. When I'm using a Mac and a computer and a web browser, I'm making it more generic, the interface had me a little confused. So I thought, whoa, if I'm confused, I need to get myself straightened out. And hey, if I get confused, maybe some of the members would get confused. In fact, they may not even know there is a website for iCloud.com. So with that said, I put together this presentation. I'm not going to show you how to use the various things on the website. I'm just going to show you the controls and what you can do from it. There we go. Okay, so guide to the new iCloud.com. Okay, so it's a website, www.icloud.com. And when you go there, it's going to ask you to log in. Well, it's going to use the credentials from your Apple ID. So whatever your email is that you have associated with your Apple ID and that password, that's what you're going to use to log in. So with that said, why would you use iCloud.com? Well, it's a quick way to access apps or services that are normally found on your Mac, your iPhone, or your iPad, especially if you don't have your Mac, your iPhone, or your iPad with you. Let's say you're over at a friend's house, you forgot your phone, you want to show them something that you have on your iCloud Drive, or you want to show them a spreadsheet or something, or you want to check your mail. Maybe you're traveling, you don't have any of your electronic devices, and you want to check your mail. You can log into the iCloud.com website and be able to access those things, even if it's on a Windows or a Linux computer, because you're using a web browser to log into that website. Well, the reason why I didn't know about this was because they only rolled it out in November of 2022. So they did some beta testing, and then they got a really good feedback from folks, so they went ahead and rolled it out, where they were originally going to roll it out in 2023. So the website, this is where I give you the marketing verbiage. The website now features a colorful wallpaper with tiles for your Apple ID account, Apple apps like Photos, Mail, iCloud Drive, Calendar, and Notes. Colorful wallpaper with tiles. Okay. Okay, so any questions at that point? Did I set expectations okay? Okay. Moving. Yeah, George.
Is there a security issue? Are you using that as opposed to being on your own computer? Maybe it's a dumb question.
I don't know if they're encrypted and they're encrypted end to end, which is why they specify which web browser you use.
Well, you gotta log in, and if you look at the thing, you should see the lock up there too.
Okay.
It's HTTPS, so it's secure.
Well, as usual, you just have to watch out that nobody's looking over your shoulder when you're typing in your password, but that's normal.
Yeah. Okay, so
We use touch.
I want you to imagine you're looking at a web page. You know how you can scroll up and down? Okay, imagine you're sitting at a computer, you're using a web browser, you got this web page, the iCloud web page. You got the top that you normally see, and then there's a bottom to it that you don't see. You got to scroll down to see that part. I'm going to do the controls that are at the top first. So this is where I get a little bit of exercise. This is after you've logged in. Now, I'm logging in as TMG Dayton at iCloud.com. That's the Apple ID associated with me for TMG Dayton. You have up in this corner, upper left, a little icon that says iCloud. Okay? That'll come in handy later on. Over here on the upper right, we have these, what I call the dot grid. Okay? Typically, it indicates favorites in a web browser. So it's like a menu bar, a dot grid, and next to it is a circle with a plus inside. And then next to that is a little icon, and that would be the picture that's associated with your Apple ID, and that's what I call an account icon. They don't really specify what these controls are called, so I've sort of made up my own names for them. So with that said, as I said, cloud icon is found in the upper left. On the right, we find the dot grid, the plus, and the account icon. All right, so we're going to do the dot grid. When you click on it, see, we're clicking on this thing when we get this. So it's showing us two pieces. We got apps and we've got what's called more. So the apps, mail, contacts, calendar, photos, that's iCloud Drive, notes, reminders, pages, numbers, Keynote, and Find My. Okay, so these are all programs that are normally found on your iPad, iPhone, your Mac, that let you do various things. So Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Pages is a word processor. The equivalent in Microsoft land would be Microsoft Word. Numbers is a spreadsheet. The equivalent in Microsoft would be Microsoft Excel. Then we have Apple Keynote. Its equivalent in Microsoft land would be Microsoft PowerPoint. And then email, okay. Every Apple ID has a free email account with it. Most people don't use it because they don't know it's there. But you do have an email account. Contacts, that would be the stuff that's in your contact list. It's on your iPhone, your iPad. Okay? Remember when we talk about syncing data between devices? Your iCloud account is where that data is that the device is synced to. Photos, Drive, notes, reminders, all that. And then down here we have some other items. Okay, so I'm just verifying, yeah, dot grids, mail, contacts, calendar, photos. And then in my thing I say, but wait, there's more. This is where I tell you about the Ginsu knives that you also get if you order now. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this stuff down here. And I'm going to sit again. So you've got where you can click and it'll take you to your iCloud storage plan. Your storage, how much you're using of the storage, what plan you're on. And just so you know, they've got a new iCloud Plus thing that you can subscribe to. I'm not going to do a sales pitch for it, okay? But there's a lot of features that are in that. And then there's another one called data recovery, okay? That's when something's happened to your iPhone or your iPad, you've lost your contacts, you've lost something, you can do data recovery using that link. And then underneath, it has another one that's customize your home page. So by home page, we're talking about that colorful wallpaper with tiles. So all of those little tiles, you can move them around. You can say, hey, you know, I don't really use numbers or pages or Keynote. I don't need a tile for them. I need a tile for my calendar. I want it here. I want a tile for reminders. I want it there. And, you know, iCloud Drive maybe. But you can set it up exactly how you want it. Okay. And the most important one, let me go back here. All of this information that I'm giving you is directly from this link right here, the iCloud User Guide. Okay. You know, things are never as certain nowadays. We never can quite be sure whether we're getting good information or bad information or mediocre information. So just so you know, everything that I'm showing you in this presentation is directly from the official Apple iCloud User Guide. Now that will take you to a link on the Apple website, not the iCloud website, but the Apple website, in the support section where they have all the help notes. And they've got a very large amount of information there, more than I could present in a year's worth of meetings. And then the last one, that's the one, don't sign up for stuff unless you really know you need it. That's where you can upgrade your storage plan to iCloud Plus, and they have a whole bunch of things that they have. that you can add in there. Okay, so that's the dot grid. And again, just so repetition, the only tool a teacher has, the dot grid, you get this, that's the dot grid. And we'll go on. So now we're going to move on to the next part, the plus. There's a circle with a plus. If you click on that, you get this little dialog, and it says create new email message, note, calendar event, reminder, pages, numbers, spreadsheet, keynote presentation. So instead of having to launch notes or launch mail or launch calendar, the full app, you could say, hey, I just want to do a quick email I want to send off, or I want to make a quick reminder to myself. So that plus, that's just a quick way of getting to, hey, I want to create a new email, a new note, a calendar event, a reminder, or, one of the other heavy-duty Apple apps.
Does it look like a?
So on the top of this web page,
Yeah.
you've got the dot grid, and right next to it is a circle with the plus in it.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it, okay, I see.
Yeah. And it's okay, yeah, because I couldn't figure out, I'm going like, is it create a new website? I didn't know what it was either. Okay, so that's where we are. So just again, there's a plus sign on the top upper right side, of the screen. You tap it to create a new email or a new note or a calendar event or a reminder. Or you can tap it to create a new word processing document, spreadsheet, or a presentation. Okay, and then back again. The plus right there, between the dot grid and the account icon, there you go. I put in all the extra slides just so I'd have an excuse to get up and get some extra steps. Well, I sit too much, so. Okay, so now we're going to talk about that last one. So again, we're on that it's almost like a menu bar, but it's just, at the top of that web page. All the way in the far right, it'll have a little symbol, and it'll be with whatever picture it thinks is associated with your Apple account. In some cases, it may just be initials. And when you bring that up, it's going to say the name of the person that's associated with that account, the email that's considered to be the email for it, and then we've got 3 different things we can go to. iCloud settings, manage Apple ID, and sign up. So you know how you log into a website, like a bank, you're logging into the bank website, and then you log out? Because iCloud.com has personal information of yours, your email, your contact list. You want to log out when you're done. And in the case of if you're using somebody else's computer, then close the web browser. Don't just log out and then close the web browser. So let's talk about these 3 things. And we go down again. Okay. And manage your Apple ID. That middle one, the manage your Apple ID, it had an arrow coming off of it. Just a little blue arrow signing off. That means it's taking you to another website. In this case, it's going to take you not to the apple.com website, but the special website that Apple has for managing Apple ID information. Okay. And so those are the 3 things you can do there. iCloud settings, manage your Apple ID, and to sign out. Okay, any questions so far? Yes, George.
So the plus icon, if I create something in Pages, where does that reside? I'm not a big user of iCloud. Does that?
It's
end up
going
on
to
my-
save it in your storage your iCloud Drive that's associated with your Apple ID. So even though you don't have iCloud Drive turned on your Mac or maybe one of your other devices, it's still there. Their storage space is still there, up in the cloud.
It wouldn't automatically be available on my computer
Unless you told your computer, hey, I want you to synchronize and I want you to keep these documents, etc. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
One thing, Bill, I was thinking about, we have a lot of contacts that are out of date, and if I go up to the cloud and do it, it'll take care of all of my computers, right?
Okay, there's two benefits for editing your contacts logged into iCloud.com. The first one is, this is the one that always blows my mind. Okay, I'm on a Mac or I'm on a phone or I'm on an iPad and I'm trying to edit my contacts. Well, my contacts may not just be my Apple ID contacts. They would be contacts that Facebook's putting in there or that my Gmail account is putting in there. And I'm confused. I get frustrated because I'm trying to delete something or modify it and I don't realize that I need to be in Google Gmail as opposed to Apple Mail. If I'm doing it from my iCloud account, I know I'm talking just to the contacts associated with my Apple ID. And if I can get those right, I don't care about the others. Especially something like Facebook. You don't have control over that contact information that Facebook will put into your contacts. That's controlled by the person that owns that Facebook account. So now you want to modify their street address because they've got, they've moved, and you can't modify it. Well, that's because they have to modify it when they're logged into Facebook. You're just seeing what they have. So again, two benefits from editing your contacts from iCloud.com. The first one is it's going to percolate out to all the devices. And the second one is exactly what you're working with. Good. Yes, George.
I try to avoid using iCloud. Okay, and I keep getting this message saying my iCloud is full.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on there?
Okay, the first thing to remember, I'm going to go off topic because I didn't really want to get into how iCloud works, but the first thing to remember is that there's more than 76 things that are somehow related to the word iCloud, services that Apple provides, okay? So when you say iCloud, what I'm hearing you say is, iCloud backups, because it's telling me my iCloud storage is full from my backups, and the other one would be iCloud syncing of data through iCloud. But there's all of this other stuff that can happen under the moniker of iCloud. All right?
Okay.
So I'm going to leave it there, and then when I get to the other part, we'll be seeing where you can see what's in your storage. Okay? Because sometimes we find out we've got backups to devices that we don't have anymore still up in iCloud. So move them around. And if I got enough time at the end, I'm going to actually fire up a web browser and noodle through it. Okay, so now we're sitting at the computer, we got the web browser fired up, we've logged into iCloud.com, we looked at the top of that page, and now we scrolled to the bottom of it. Okay? And at the bottom, sort of in the middle here, this is where I get to get up again, but this is good for the knees. We got a little button here that says Customize Homepage. Well, if you remember when we were doing the dot grid, they had a thing up there that said Customize Homepage. So they got two different ways that you can get to customizing the homepage. In the homepage, they're talking about these tiles, which ones you want to show, where you want them, the order. Okay? And this is a direct violation of the Apple interface that Steve Jobs always pushed for. He said, give them one way to do it. Don't give them two, don't give them three, give them one way to do it, and they should get, and if you give them two, they got to get exactly the same result. Okay, so they're playing loose with the Apple interface here. So that's what that little customized home button is. And at the bottom, we got 3 separate items. The first one is your plan. So that would be your iCloud plan. I'm using the standard 5 gigabytes of storage free plan. So that's what it's telling me right now, what my plan is. And where it says your storage, it's telling me that I'm using 538 megabytes of 5 gigabytes. So it actually gives me a little colored thermometer bar, if you will, and it's saying I'm using less than 1% of 5 gig. So I know how much I'm using, okay? And then over here is where you have data recovery. Now, all 3 of those things were in the dot grid. But at the bottom, you know, just for a quick dashboard, that's what they call these things, dashboards. You can quickly see, oh, I'm on the standard plan, I've got plenty of space left, and if I need to do data recovery, so, you know, I want to restore contacts to an iPhone that I own, because somehow it got, by clicking on that, it takes you to the data recovery portion, and we're not going to go into it in detail, but that'll let you restore contacts or email accounts and that kind of stuff. Okay, so that was the bottom of the iCloud interface. And again, this is just verbiage that tells you the same thing. To customize the home page, and on the bottom, your plan, your storage, your data recovery. Okay, so we did the top of the home page of iCloud, and we did the bottom. Do we have any questions at this point?
Just a curiosity thing about your personal use of iCloud, was that just illustrative, or was that your actual plan?
This is an iCloud to.
I got the impression you don't use
This
iCloud.
is an Apple ID associated with the emails tmgdayton@icloud.com, tmgdayton@outlook.com, and tmgdayton@gmail.com. The Outlook.com is a Microsoft account, and it's got its own cloud storage called OneDrive. And the Gmail, Google account has its own iCloud storage. It's called G Drive. But for purposes of, you know, you get old, you just want to, you don't have to remember stuff. So I've got my Microsoft account and my Google account and my Apple account set up that whether I type in tmgdayton at outlook.com or tmgdayton@gmail.com or tmgdayton@icloud.com, it's going to take it as the username. And if somebody sends a iMessage, you know, they're sending me a iMessage and they only know about my Gmail account, it's going to send it to my Apple account messages. Okay, I think I confused people with that. Oh well. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to say thank you, and if I've got time, which I do, we're going to do live demo. Okay, are we good? So now what I'm going to do is fire up a web browser. Now, you can only use certain web browsers to connect to iCloud.com. Let's say you're on a Linux machine. You would have to be either using Firefox or Google Chrome or Opera, because there is no Safari web browser on a Linux machine. If I'm on a Windows 10 machine or a Windows 11 machine, I'm going to have to use Microsoft Edge or Firefox or Google Chrome, because there is no Apple Safari on Windows 10 or Windows 11. Okay? So keeping that in mind, I'm on a Mac. I'm going to pretend that I'm on somebody else's machine, and I'm just going to go ahead and fire up Safari. Okay, so those of you who use Safari, this is the favorites. It's got all these little icons. Well, one of the ones that's always there as part of the default is iCloud. If I click on that,
You're going to share the screen?
Say again?
Are you still sharing?
Okay, so we're using a web browser and we're at iCloud. And it's got a button under this stuff going on. It says sign in. I click on, and I get the dialog box that says sign in with your Apple ID. Okay? All right. It's a presentation, so I've got stuff saved that I normally wouldn't save. So we're going to be logging in with the username of tmgdayton@icloud.com, but I could also put in tmgdayton@gmail.com or tmgdayton@outlook.com, because in my Apple ID, I've said those are my 3 emails that I associate with this account. And then I click, and we're putting in the super secret Apple ID password. Okay, I've now logged in. So we've got Photos is up here, and Drive is over there, and Notes is over there. If I was doing this on an iPhone, I'd be seeing these tiles one at a time, and I'd be scrolling up and down a lot. So we're going to go down a little bit here. So one of these tiles is the equivalent of the grid. The applications: Mail, Contacts, Calendar, Photos, Drive. Oh, Mail, Contacts, Calendar, Photos, Drive. Okay. And if I go down a little bit, I've got a button where I can say Customize Homepage. So now it's like we're on an iPad, and the little icons are jiggling, what I call Jello mode. So let's say we don't want to have our photos tile there. We just click the X and we say, hey, remove that photo tile. Or let's say we say, hey, let's move the apps up here. I want apps up there. And hey, I don't use notes, so get rid of notes, take that out. Got the idea? You can move them around, just like you can the icons on your home page on an iPad. Yes, Bill?
Kathy's showing TMG Presenter and started screen sharing. Oh, now it's finally came up.
Okay. Yeah, Zoom is acting a little weird today. All right, when you're finished moving the tiles around, you click the Done button. Okay. We can also add tiles, but I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. All right, so we're down at the bottom. I'm going to click on Your Plan. It takes you to a larger display to show you just what's in your plan, what's covered, what isn't covered. And if I scroll down, they've got the area where they're going to upsell you. And I'm going to hide that because I'm not here to sell stuff. Okay, now this is where I went, wait a minute, how do I go back to the home page? All right? You go up to the grid, and where it said before, on the home page, it would say, do you want to modify the home page? If you're not on the home page, it says iCloud home page, and it'll take you back there. I went, wow, that's not what I want in my controls. I want to know, click here every time and it'll do it. And I found one that'll do that. So let me go down here. I'm going to click on your plan again. Instead of clicking up on the dot grid, over on the far left, that iCloud icon that's in the far left, just click on that. It'll always take you back to the home page. So it's like hitting your home button on an iPad or an iPhone. Okay, let's scroll on back down. Your storage. Okay, so here it's showing me for my Apple ID, my account, how the space is being used. So I've got one device that's backing up to it, and it's using half a gig. And I've got about 20 meg of email messages, et cetera, et cetera. And down here, they have in this gray box, they have this little bit of information, how to manage your iCloud storage. Now remember, Apple wants you to buy iCloud Plus, wants you to pay for extra storage. So they don't very often show you how to pare down what you got up there. But it says, on your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch, go to Settings, and then go to your name, and then go to iCloud, and then go to Cloud Storage. And that's where you can say, hey, don't save this, take this out, take that out. That's how you can remove stuff from up there. And on the Mac, you would go to System Settings, Apple ID, and then to iCloud, and then iCloud Storage Manage. Okay. Now you'll notice that up here it's got, your iCloud plan, iCloud storage, data recovery, settings. That's what I don't like about the interface. They've got too many ways you can get to different places. So that's why I just do, okay, go back to the home page, Bill. Now, where do we want to go next? All right. So we're going to go to the dot grid. We've already I'm in the more section of the dot grid. We've already done iCloud storage or iCloud plan, data recovery. Well, we looked at them. We don't want to customize the home page again. So I'm going to take you to the most important thing I can show you, iCloud User Guide. I click on that. It opens a new tab, takes me to the support section of apple.com, and this is where it's got the iCloud User Guide. And being who I am, I just click on Table of Contents. Just to give you an overview of what's up there, iCloud Basics, what's included in iCloud Plus, I'd ignore that. How to manage your account and settings. Now, if you click one of those, it does a expand and shows you the subtopics in there, and when you click on it, it takes you to that tech note. Okay, now that's all I'm going to show of that right now. Just be aware that if you really want to know about iCloud, this is the only documentation you're going to find from Apple that really lays it all out. Okay, so I'm going to close that tab and go back to where we were. And then just to show you in action, email message, notes, calendar event, reminder. Okay, I'm going to click on calendar event. So it brings up in the web browser, just like you open Calendar on your Mac, and it's already got a new event tab opened up, ready for me to fill out the information. Now, I don't want to create a new event, so I'm just going to go and click on that iCloud in the upper left-hand corner, takes me back to the home page. So, yeah, there's other ways to get back to the home page, but that one always works. Now, I'm going to go back to, let me just scroll up here. You'll notice that in this tile that's about iCloud Drive, it says there was a problem loading this content. Do you want to try again? I know now not to try again because the problem is not with iCloud. The problem is that I'm using an older version of Safari on a MacBook Pro running High Sierra. Okay, well, I went, well, wait a minute, why isn't it working? Well, I went to the iCloud User Guide. And then I scrolled down to where they said, use iCloud on the web. And then I went down to, sign in and use iCloud Drive. And I get this first thing at the top, system requirements for iCloud. And I click on that and it tells me that if I'm using an iPhone to connect to iCloud, it's got to be iOS 16 or above. And if I'm on an iPad, iPad OS 16, an iPod Touch iOS 15, and if I'm on a Mac, for all the features to work, I got to be on Mac OS Ventura 13. Or be using Firefox 45 or later, Google Chrome 54 or later, or Opera. That's another web browser. So even though I'm on High Sierra, if I use Google Chrome, the latest version, I could log into iCloud.com and all the features would work. So it's a web browser thing. And then they also say, if you're on a PC, you got to be on Microsoft Windows 10 or later. None of this Microsoft XP, no Vista, no Windows 7. You got to be on 10 or 11. And you got to have iCloud for Windows 11 or later if you want to use the iCloud app on that PC. If you don't, you just want to use a web browser, Firefox 45 or later, Google Chrome 54 or later, or Microsoft Edge, latest version, or Opera to connect. Then they talk about minimum system requirements. We're going to just close that out. Just be aware that that's where, that's the mothership of the information. That support page that's on the Apple support website where they talk about iCloud. All right, let's see. And let me bring up iPhotos, because I know iPhotos works. iCloud Photos, excuse me.
These aren't incriminating photos you got up there, right?
Hmm?
I was just saying, they're not the incriminating photos. We're not going to see you in a bathing suit.
No Speedos, no Speedos. So I have a fairly generic set of photos on this TMG Dayton at iCloud account. I've got a bunch of circular logos with TMG in it, and I have some double-clicking it. I've got a wallpaper that I use. Now, this kind of wallpaper, I use it on a computer when it's linked to some sort of cloud drive. So if I was on a Windows 10 or Windows 11 machine and it's linked to OneDrive, in other words, everything I put on my desktop is actually stored in the OneDrive desktop, I use this kind of wallpaper to remind me that my data's not being stored on the local machine, it's being stored on the cloud. For Macintoshes, I use this one. So it's a cloud, and it's got a bunch of zeros and ones streaming from it like rain. The reason why I use this one is when you go to log in, okay, it'll show you that your picture right in the middle of the cloud. So it's spaced exactly right to work. And again, let's say, okay, I'm in iCloud Photos. I want to get back to the home page. Where do I click? You want to take a guess, Ray? I go to the upper left-hand corner and I click on iCloud. Now I'm back on the home page. Okay, is everybody's brain full?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody want me to do any more? No? Okay. So, I got to log out of the web page, right? So I'm up at the top, I move all the way over to the right, I click on that account icon, and then I go to where in red it says sign out. It says, hey, do you want to sign out? But I've got another choice, and that's trust and sign out. So if I'm on a hotel machine, I would not click trust and sign out. I would just click sign out. If I'm on, let's say, my sister's machine up in Chicago, I know it's secured, I click trust and sign out, so next time it'll remember me. In this case, I'm just gonna say sign out. And then it takes you back to the login page. Okay, so just a final recap. The reason why you would use iCloud.com, one is to edit the data that's associated with your iCloud account. So maybe you're having calendar issues, or you got contact issues, or you've got an email issue. That's where I always start, okay? Especially if I'm like, it's January and you're cleaning up all your contact info. Okay. The other reason you would use it is you don't have access to your devices, you want to check your Apple Mail, or you want to check your calendar, or you want to check your reminder notes. You wrote that wonderful note for when you were traveling, your whole itinerary, where you got to be and when, and you left it on the kitchen table, or you left it on your Mac at home. This way, you can log in securely, look at your information, collect the information, and then log out securely, and you go about your business. And I'll open the question.